Um, Talk about, somebody asked me, if I could pick a word to describe this year for our youth ministry, what word would I pick? And the word I would pick for our group is dangerous. It's dangerous because I want our kids to be dangerous in what they do. I want them to be dangerous in their faith. I want them to take dangerous risks. I want them, and I'm not talking about unsafe, I'm talking about danger. Well, I want them to have that same feeling in their faith that says, look, something's about to happen here. God is about to do something big here. I want to be ready for that rather than running away. I want to be, ready for that moment when God does something. And so if you could pick a word for your youth ministry this year, what word would you pick? What word do you want your students to get? What do you want them to understand about God or about their faith? What word would you pick the word deep? Would you pick a word like fearless? What word would you guys pick for your youth ministry this year? You guys think about that and feel free to comment there as I continue talking on. But my pastor and I were talking about this. I said, look, I really want, for our youth ministry at least, I want the word to be dangerous. And there are several reasons for that because in comparison, I just recently wrote a blog post and did a whole podcast on that. You can catch that on the website called Becoming a More Dangerous Youth Ministry. And in Becoming a More Dangerous Youth Ministry, you look at two people. I compare two people. I compare the people at the circus and a gentleman by the name of Nick Walenda. The people at the circus, you go to the circus. If you've ever been to the circus, you watch the tightrope walkers, you watch the trapeze artists, you see all those people. And what you see is, there are people down below, and you'll see that there is a net below there. Now, yes, for a brief amount of time, they may lower that net, but there are people ready that if anything terrible were to happen, that net would be probably yanked pretty tight and possibly, save these people to do that. Hey, good morning, welcome in. And I thought, to me, what is that net for youth ministry? The net for youth ministry is the program, right? It's the program. It's the safety, right? And we say, okay, come into the youth group, come in here because this is a safe place to be. And I want it to be. I want our youth ministry to be a safe place to be, where they can share, where they can do things, where they can worship, where they can do all things. But the thing that I am sensing, at least for this year, and probably in a general direction for the rest of my life, I hope, is the fact that the program can be the safety net. It's the thing that keeps the kids from maybe experiencing God in a much bigger and broader way. Because we ask those kids, right? We say, well, hey, come Wednesday night and be safe, but come with us on the mission trip once a year, or come to the evangelistic outreach once a quarter or twice a year, whatever it may be. And, we have those elements, and I'm trying to ramp up the dangerous moments, if you will. And so we talk about the trapeze artist, the net is there, right? And if you're small and if you're a child, you're looking, oh, that looks really dangerous. And if you're an adult, you look down and go, hey, there's some nets there. They're going to be fine. If you compare it to somebody like Nick Walenda, who has a whole family filled with tightrope walkers who have walked between buildings, have walked on top of giant Ferris wheels, and walked across canyons, all those things. What you see is that there is no net. If Nick Walenda falls, he dies. It's just plain and simple. If you're walking through and walking across between a building, there's nothing down there that's gonna save him. That is by far more dangerous because there's the element of risk is much higher. And so for our students, and maybe for your students, the goal for me is to up the danger factor that says, look, I'm going to give you the same things that Jesus gave to his disciples. I'm going to say to you, hey, you're going to go out, you're going to share the gospel, you're going to go hand out bottles of water, which we do here on Sunday morning sometimes. I had a bunch of kids 2 weeks ago. We said, look, Sunday morning church, just go out to the roads, hand out bottles of water and bulletins. And that's what they did. It was tremendous, and church took on a whole new paradigm for them. That church wasn't just me sitting in church. Church was me actually doing something. And for a teenager, I think that's kind of the key there. That's, what did you do at church today? Well, some people said, well, I learned this. But other people went out and they may go out and say, well, I handed out bottles and bulletins today for 15, 20 minutes of the church service. And that becomes a whole new dynamic where they say, look, that church is not just about sitting, not against worship, not against that. But once again, we took away the safety net of I'm coming to church and said, I'm going to be the church. And so we create those danger moments that says, well, we don't know what's going to happen, but students, teenagers like that. Why do you think teenagers love to do dangerous things? Because they don't know what's going to happen. That's why they light firecrackers off and put them in places and doing things in M80s and crazy and do stunts, because they go, well, let's see what will happen. And that is our viral culture. And I think the gospel ought to have the same element of danger once again, that says, look, that God could do something, God is going to do something, but we have to take the risk and take the danger to be able to do that. So you compare and say it's either the circus or it's the Nick Wallenda version of taking away the program, taking away the safety net of our kids. And the question for us is today then, how do we take that away? And I'd like you guys to feed into this. Let's see. Ideas for an evangelistic event. Let's see. Let me make sure I'm reading that correctly. Okay. I think evangelistic events are good, right? I think they're good. And we do. Now, evangelistic events for us. Hey, good morning. The Urban Monk. Great stuff. I've seen some great things happen when students, yes, when they're challenged to take risks. Absolutely, Urban Monk. That's exactly it. And we have to take away that take away that safety net more often, right? More often. Wednesday nights for us, I'm going to get to your event question. I think the event is to get more people in, right, to share the gospel with them. I recommend this. We do something called the Blitz, or you can call it Tribes, that I offer through my store. If you go to the website, thediscipleproject.net, and you go to shop, you'll see that there. And it is an 8-week evangelistic outreach of building teams and building your group with the entire purpose of being able to share the gospel every week, right? To be able to get kids in the door, right? But then the other part of that is, once you get them in the door, the hard part is getting them back out the door to share what they've already been taught. And the only thing that's going to do that is if they say to themselves, if I go to this church, if I go to this youth ministry, it's going to be another level of danger. In other words, I want them to sense and feel like God can do anything. God could use me to do something amazing. And that's whether that's share the gospel, whether that's stop and pray for somebody, whether that is just be led by the Spirit and to go to somebody and says, look, I really feel like I'm supposed to give you money, or whatever that may be. I just think that is such a upping the risk factor of saying we serve a dangerous God, a God who could do anything at any moment, not in the matter of just to freak us out for freak us out purposes, but to do it to say, look, I use people in the Bible, in the New Testament, in the book of Acts, to do amazing things, and all they had to do was be obedient. All they had to do was go out, whether that was the 2x2 that Jesus sent out, who they went and healed the sick and cast out demons, or whether that's in the book of Acts where, Peter stands up one day and shares the gospel by the power of the Holy Spirit, and 3,000 are added to the church. So there's this risk, and of course, Peter and all that, we see them being, suffering for the cause. We see them being persecuted. But look at Stephen, the first martyr of Scripture, right, who wound up getting stoned. And because he took a risk, he brought forth a revelation, right? There is no revelation without the risk. Right? So what we're trying to do is get our kids to stand and say, look, you can stone me if you want to. And of course, we know our kids are not going to get stoned. Our kids are just not going to get stoned out there. Nobody's going to, they might, if they throw rocks, I don't know. But more than likely, that's not going to happen. What's going to happen is they'll get a few verbal attacks. They'll get somebody that doesn't like, but I'm going to say that most of the time, they're going to receive something, God is going to do something based on, they're going to get a revelation of who God is in the midst of their obedience. And when they do that, that's the danger. That's the adrenaline rush that they feel. It says, God is moving in my life and God is doing tremendous things. But we got to, as a youth ministry, be able to put people into that, be able to put people in that position without the net. We got to take away the net. Because we know, I'll speak for my youth group, is that I know that many of them don't do this on a regular basis. They don't take risks. They don't share their faith because they're afraid. You take away the fear factor that says, look, we're going to go out and do this as a group. We're going to do this together. We're going to do this as however they're going to do that. But when they do it in a group, then they discover that God is not so scary. He's dangerous, but the danger is not that I'm going to get hurt or something bad's going to happen to me, but the danger is God could use me in a fantastic and miraculous way. And so, but I would love to hear from you guys. So this has been, I didn't really plan on doing it all this way. It kind of turned into a little webinar about youth ministry and evangelism, which happens to be my heart and passion at the moment. Let me see here. It's not responsibility of the youth worker. It's responsibility of the student. Absolutely first priority. Way to go, first priority. But it is the responsibility of the youth worker, I would say too, to add to that, is the responsibility of the youth worker to take away the safety net. Quit creating safe environments of predetermined outcomes, right? Announcements, worship, message, altar. And so it is our role to create a more dangerous atmosphere where God can move, where God can share, where God can do a miraculous work in the life of a student. And but the problem is that our kids already know what we're going to do before we do it. They already know the song set. They already know the announcements coming up. They know that we're going to play a funny game. They already know this system. And I am, for this summer, like I said, for me, we're going to create the most dangerous summer ever. We are doing our Blitz program. If you're looking for an evangelistic outreach, if you want to get kids in, then do that over time and build teams and do the games and do all that stuff. But then turn that thing around where you're then chasing kids out of the church to go and serve and do these things. In other words, we didn't bring you in here to create more safety. We brought you in here to introduce you to a dangerous God who could do things, do something dangerous in your life that we would determine as dangerous, that we would say, oh my goodness, God can do something crazy at this moment, and he could use me to do it. That's dangerous, right? And so for me, and my house, we're going to try to be a more dangerous youth ministry this year. Any questions you guys have? I know you guys asked a few questions about evangelistic outreaches. I do some of those. I do something called Impact 75 or Impact 100. That's going to be another resource that's coming out on how to do that for your youth ministry. So be sure to check. If you're not, but I'm going to wrap this up with you guys now, but my encouragement is this. If you want more information, if you would like some more resources, more ideas, resources, or strategies, sign up for my Fresh Impact newsletter. Sign up for that because I'm going to send out some tools, send out some ways for you to be able to do that, ways for you to connect, way to ask me questions, all those kind of things. So I hope that you'll do that. So go to thediscipleproject.net. Go to the top portion there and go to Start Making an Impact Now and sign up for the newsletter because I'm going to give you some ideas probably all the way through the summer here of just things that we're doing that are going to create a more dangerous youth ministry, create ways to take away the safety nets that are creating safe students. And we know that in the disciples of the New Testament were anything but safe. They were squirrely, they were crazy, they were radical, and we have to create that environment. The same environment that Jesus created, we can create right here within our youth ministries if we're willing to take away the safety nets. Well, guys, thank you so much. Appreciate you guys hanging out with me for a little while today. Catch me on Friday for another opportunity to talk about youth ministry here on Periscope. And until that time, I will see you guys later.